So with that, it's an honor to introduce Brian VeteranSpeech. Brian, where are you? Right there. Brian's background is he was in the Marine Corps. He served first in recon, and then he moved on to help be a part of the initial Marine Special Forces. He has served in many different roles, but among the roles was being the commander in Kandahar, and province of Kandahar, and helping oversee that battle. And he's going to share with us some of his experiences there. Since retiring as a lieutenant colonel, he has worked as a construction operations, and more recently he's become the community relations person for Team 43, which is a umbrella group bringing veterans groups together. So Brian.
Thanks a lot, Bryce. Well, it is truly an honor to be here. And beyond this just being Veterans Day, I've heard so many amazing things that meant so much to me during my time in service. I heard Greg talk about teamwork. Well, you didn't get here without a tremendous amount of teamwork, team effort. 25 years is a long time. And I am so happy to see you recognize as an organization, as a company, those people that helped you get to this point. Because it certainly was to me in the military, it is today all about the people that helped you get there. So for all those of you that were a part, for all those that Sloan is celebrating here tonight and helping them get here to this point, thanks for your contributions there. To all the veterans present tonight, I'm grateful, as I'm sure you are, for the opportunity to have answered the call of duty. The call to serve the nation, to be a part of something greater than yourself, to truly believe as a patriot that you can make a difference in defending the freedoms of this country. So that was my going in position a while ago. Now it's been over 20 years. And I cherish every bit of that. I cherish every moment I spent in uniform. I honor everyone else that I got to serve alongside, because it truly was a remarkable experience. And we're going to work as a team, because teamwork's so important. If you could go back one slide for me on this presentation. See if this works. All right, I think it's up on some of the screens. So in 1977, the United States Navy put out a TV commercial. I was a young boy when this came out, but it's not just a job, it's an adventure. That was their recruiting campaign slogan and TV commercial in 1977. Man, how true that is. The journey, the adventure that was my career, as well as the journey that everyone in this room that wore the uniform had. We all had our own adventure, whether you served 4 years, whether you served, I know people that have served well over 40 years in uniform. It's an adventure for sure. It's a fun one that you can look back on with tremendous amount of respect, honor what you did in support of the nation, and that's what this day is about. Those that have worn the uniform, respecting them, their efforts in defending the freedoms of this country. So with that, and with the theme of security, and with the theme of teamwork, Bryce asked if I would share a little bit of insight. He asked me to keep it brief, so I'm going to try my best to do that. But a little bit of those elements of security and teamwork, and how to get through some pretty trying times based on some things that our nation got involved in. You all saw that slide that was up there. It's a beautiful place called Afghanistan. So in August of 2010, I found myself back in this lovely place for the third time. I had been there just 1 year prior. I had a beautiful wife, 2 young children at this time, who were still supporting me and my adventure. And this adventure was with so many tremendous Americans. So as I landed back in Afghanistan this go around, things were different. Things in 2010 had changed. The security situation had gotten very bad with the threat of IEDs, with the resolve of the Taliban's insurgency effort. And our strategy as Americans in the coalition of other nations was failing. We were failing miserably. Like I said, I'd been there just 1 year prior. And we thought we were doing things right. We were using traditional means to combat an enemy that everything we did, it just was not working. So at the time, I'm 10 years into my career. I'm commanding a Marine Special Operations Unit that was fairly new. At this point, we were less than 4 years old as a formalized Special Operations Unit. But not only was I going to work with my organic Marine unit, since the strategy was failing, things needed to change, we were going to implement something new. We were going to have to bring together multiple special operations teams to work together to try to combat the Taliban and their insurgency, the stronghold they had out in the rural countryside of Afghanistan. We in our military might did a great job of protecting the cities. We had nice little isolation bubbles around them, but that's not what was important. The people out in the countryside had been influenced by the Taliban. They had their own sense of governance, and they were running the rest of the country. So security was bad. Strategy needed to change. That strategy that we were implementing before that I talked about, which was one of just traditional military execution, our thought process was find their leadership, engage their leadership, and eliminate their leadership. We were targeting the leadership of the Taliban, trying to separate the leaders from the rest of their force. Without leadership, there's bad communication, and we were going to cut the head off the snake, sever them, and we would be able to go home. Well, that absolutely wasn't the case. It was like playing whack-a-mole in 2009 prior to this deployment. We would find them through various means. We would engage them, eliminate them from the map, and 20 more would pop up on the radar. It was like a never-ending process. Anybody ever play that arcade game, whack-a-mole? You whack the mole in the head and 2 more pop up. So we were playing whack-a-mole all over the place, and it was ineffective. So in 2010, we're back, I'm back, strategy's changed, and now we're going to be tasked with moving into the villages as special operations units. We're going to go live with the populace. These operations were called village stability operations. We're going to live amongst the people. We're going to work with Afghan counterparts. We had trained and built an Afghan targeting force called Afghan Commandos. We had built and trained Afghan Special Forces soldiers, and we were partnered with them. And we were going to do it as a task force in southern Afghanistan, in this area outlined here on this map, with a coalition of special operations teams. Marines, Army Special Forces teams, Navy SEALs, and we had a Muslim partner involved, special operations from the United Arab Emirates. And they were all charged to work with me to move into the villages and execute a new strategy to win back the populace. So that's what we did. Like I said, I landed in August. By October, we were ready. We had conducted some shaping operations with this unbelievable team that had been assembled, and we inserted ourselves into an environment that was extremely complex. Not only were we fighting the insurgency that was running the countryside, but we were also landing in a place called Helmand Province, where that blue bubble is on the screen. That area of Helmand Province produces more of a wonderful flowering plant. If you could advance the slide. Sorry about that. One more. This beautiful slide right here, this flower, this beautiful pink flower. Well, when this thing dries up, it turns into, next slide please, this. This is the poppy plant. The poppy plant produces the opium. So not only are we fighting the insurgency, we're doing so in a place that grows more poppy than anywhere else. They're funding themselves in the insurgency based off of this. So we're fighting a drug war, as well as an insurgency inside of this rural countryside environment. So the threat we faced, if you could go back a few slides, we faced an insurgent effort that had been emboldened by our failed strategy of trying to eliminate them. They just, again, multiplied and became more resolved in fighting us. And now they had already prepaid for next season's crop of poppy. So we had the farmers involved that we were trying to work with and live amongst. They had already been paid. So as businessmen, you know that when you pay something early, you expect something as a result. Well, the Taliban and those drug lords had paid these dirt farmers for next year's crop. And now they have these Americans, these special operations guys living in and amongst them, trying to befriend them and change the security situation. Part of that task was the concept of creating an Afghan police force. I likened it to the Wild West. We were the new sheriffs, and we had to go recruit local farmers to take up guns and work with us to become the new police force to combat the insurgency going on in those villages. It was absolutely unbelievable how complex some of these situations had gotten. So we're fighting these guys. We're contending with this lovely little device down in the bottom of that slide called an improvised explosive device. The effects that had on our ability to operate was decimating. You can see what happened to that particular vehicle, part of one of my convoys during these operations. And that was one of probably 60 or 70 that we encountered during this time. This particular operation turned into a 53-day intense combat situation. We were engaged in the green zone. The green zone is where they're growing all those crops. We inserted Afghan commandos and Marine Special Operations in. We moved the SF guys into the mud huts in and amongst the populace and tried to separate the two. And faced those types of threats as we tried to provide the support mechanism, the backside support to these operations. From a mission support site out in close proximity to the green zone and that desert environment. Next slide. So this is what that situation for me kind of looked like. This particular night, we were combating some snipers that had been engaging us, wreaking havoc on our force. And just prior to this, I mean, those are great conditions to be operating out of. High-tech situation, bunch of laptops and a mud hut. This particular night, one of my team leaders had requested permission to go across a bridge to go contend with a sniper that had been engaging his team in the green zone. Matt had been the linchpin to success in the green zone up till this point. We're about 21 days into this operation. He was a young Marine captain, and he was aggressive, as I needed him to be. And he was leading a team of his special operations Marine teams as well as Afghan commandos. And as Matt went across the bridge into a built-up area, Matt followed two Afghan commandos into a mud hut that he knew he shouldn't be going into, but the Afghans went in first, and as a good leader, Matt tried to follow them in, and Matt stepped on an IED and lost both of his legs. So that situation, I was only about 1,000 meters away. I recognized what had happened when I heard the explosion. I knew immediately that someone had been injured, and more than likely it was Matt, because he was that aggressive. He was going to do everything he could to contend with that threat that had been wreaking havoc on his force. So that's a situational update. That's how things work. Radio transmission, and I felt absolutely helpless. The only thing I could do is pick up those handsets, listen to the situation, talk to the guys on the ground, and try to maintain an update on what was happening. It did come to me that Matt had been injured, that the way we report it, you understand the nature of the injuries by the reporting, and I knew he had lost both of his legs, and his teammates had done everything to ensure they could stop the bleeding. They had put multiple tourniquets on Matt, and we ended up medevacing Matt out of there that night. But as teams work, you pick up each other's slack. You cover for each other. So Matt's teammates picked up. One of his sergeants took charge and carried on with the operation. They had lost their leader, but they drove on. That's what it's all about. It's about mission accomplishment. Next slide, please. Matt left. Operations continued. We started to really see the effects of separating the Taliban, the insurgency, the drug lords from the populace. And 53 days later, this is kind of a culminating event and a picture that it really resonates with me, that in that short amount of time, what seemed like a lifetime, you go 53 days without a shower, it seems like a long time. And I smelled pretty righteous, so that's probably why that kid came up to me. I probably smelled like a goat by then. So he was wondering how this human smelled so badly. But he came up to me, and you can see the men of the village. This was somewhat of a common occurrence, but by this point the kids were willing to come up to us, shake our hands. Security had started to become real back in the village, and the villagers were taking ownership of their own security. The mission was being accomplished. And it was only through the hardship, the work, the dedication of a very diverse group that could come together as a team that could execute this mission. It was truly fascinating to watch, to be a part of, and through the majority of those 53 days, I tried to support those Marines, those special operations guys, those SEALs, SF guys. Most of the time I sat back in awe of what they were accomplishing. It's truly tremendous. That operation ended, and like I said, we continued on with some other activities, supporting that village and continuing to help them establish their own security. And then by May, our replacements had showed up, and we remained inside of the village there for the next 4 years until the United States withdrew. Next slide, please. So, why is any of this important? Well, as veterans, you go through scenarios like that, or you go through your basic training, you go through really formative development during your time in service. That and the other deployments and the people I was surrounded by truly changed me as a person. But when you leave the military, you've got to answer that question. What's next? Where do you go from there? You've experienced so much, you've changed, your character has developed, you've grown up. Some people had to grow up really fast. Matt grew up really fast. Matt, to go back to him for a second, after he was medevaced, he figured out what's next. Within 11 months of losing his legs, Matt deployed back to Afghanistan to lead another team of Special Operations Marines. He answered what's next. He figured it out. But that's the kind of fortitude that is within the United States military. And Matt's just one of many that have done similar things. The United States is made up of tremendous people. People willing to go through engagements like that, to lose their legs, to put themselves back out into harm's way in support of this nation's initiatives. We're all, when we leave the service though, continuing to answer what's next. What do we do? How do we contribute? For me, the what's next is I've got engaged here locally. I've been here in Idaho for about 11 months now. I came here to Idaho because I needed a place where I could breathe, having left the service. I needed to be by the mountains. My wife, Eileen, and 2 children were willing to partake in that part of the journey. We're here today. We love it here. We get to meet so many amazing people. Got to meet the Sloan family recently, and this is the right place for us. But what am I doing here to continue to contribute and help veterans answer the what's next? Next slide, please. When I got on the ground, I heard about this initiative here locally called Mission 43. Mission 43 is a local organization here in Idaho. It's dedicated to Idaho. And our charter is to help veterans figure out how to lead, learn, and inspire. They have been through so much. They continue to do so much. They have so much more to give. Many of them are young. They're highly intelligent. They have so many technical skills now leaving the military. They have so much more to give. We just need to use that compass in that last slide to help show them the path. So Mission 43 again, that's what we're doing. We're helping veterans here locally figure out how to lead themselves first, how to learn new skills and apply what they learned from their time in the military into new ventures in life, and how to inspire others in their community. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak, to talk a little bit about the journey that was mine, that I spent with so many other tremendous people that I have the utmost respect for, and every one of you here, the 1% that served on active duty in the military, is that's what it is. It's 1% or less than that's serving in the military. Veterans Day is very special to me, special to my family, and special to this country. So thank you for your patriotism. Thank you for celebrating a day like this and all those veterans that have worn the uniform. My charter to you is to help them find their path, engage a veteran in conversation, ask them about their journey if you get the opportunity, because their stories are great, and they all have a story. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your company and everything you're doing here, recognizing your people. Thank you very much.